Okay, we do have some time left to have we promised to let you meet some of our QSs that did not get a chance to be introduced at last month's meeting. And number one will be Michael Olson. Michael, you have our timing will be up to 5 minutes, and we'll hear a little bit about Michael.
Thank you very much, Tom. Good evening, everyone. If you're in Hawaii, good afternoon. And for those of you maybe in China, good morning to you. I originally had wanted to give this speech last month so I could wish you all a happy new year. Well, this is actually better because now I get to also wish you a happy Chinese New Year. We all love to have a new year, and we often will make resolutions for this new year. I used to do this. In fact, I became an expert at making broken resolutions. That is up until last year, when I sat down and made more than a resolution. I was very happy to see 2021 arrive. And I sat down on January 1st to read a new book that I had, which was Jack Canfield's Success Affirmations. But after reading the first chapter, I did what I usually do, which is peek ahead to chapter 2. And I found something that was very interesting, so I went ahead and read chapter 2 as well. At the end, there was an exercise to write a life purpose statement. Immediately, I replaced making a resolution with writing that life purpose statement. And the reason I did is because I thought of a different book, Jeff Olson's Slight Edge. In there, he talked about making small improvements every day. But there is a second idea there that's probably a little less known, which is the problem comes down to those small improvements are very easy to do. But because of that, they're also very easy not to do. The difference with writing a life purpose statement is it's much more powerful and much harder to not do. I sat down and wrote for 2 days to develop my life purpose statement. And as soon as I finished it on January 3rd, my life began to change. See, back in 2020, I happened to be engaged, but it fell apart by September of 2020. So when I went into 2021, I looked at my life purpose statement and said, it's time for me to find somebody. And I met somebody on January 5th, started talking to her every single day, and married her on December 5th of 2021. Thank you very much. Also in 2020, I was lamenting over the fact that my environment was stagnant. I had lived in the same small, tiny, cramped little place for 5 years. I had not gained much in the way of income. And I'd lived in Southern California for 36 years. So on July 4th of 2021, I left California and moved to Denver, Colorado. Also, I was struggling as far as career is concerned because back in 2010, after having destroyed my life with an addiction, I had decided I wanted to help other people overcome their addictions. But as of 2020, I still didn't have a really good idea how to help people overcome those addictions. But as soon as I moved to my new environment in Colorado, I discovered a way to do it. So I studied how to become a life and success coach. I studied hypnotherapy. I studied the beginnings of NLP practitioner. And in December of 2021, I had my first client that I was helping to overcome addictions. I still have some days where I don't make the progress that I wish I did, but those are far and few between compared to what it used to be. I urge you to take a hard look at your goals, your dreams, your purpose, and create a life purpose statement. Make it bold, make it powerful, perhaps even unselfish, but make it more than a resolution. Then get ready for an amazing transformation. And I want to thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, Michael. I didn't realize you were coming from so far also. Thank you for doing that. And I think it's time for me to call on Ed. Ed was hopefully able to be introduced last month and was not able to. So Ed, let's hear it from you, our one and only permanent accredited speaker in District 12.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Before I tell you a little about myself, I want to tell you about someone who was also from Hawaii. Rose, you may not know, someone in our Speakers Bureau audience is a neighbor of yours. I don't know if she's on the same island or a neighboring island. Do you know who that is? Okay, I didn't hear you mention her name when you talked about your followers that.
That's Diane, isn't it?
Yes, it is Diane Piela. Okay, our very own, even though she's from Hawaii now, she had been here in California and became a qualified speaker, and just yesterday joined our club, Standing Ovation. So Diane, good to have you as a new member. So telling you about myself, Tom asked me to come on and talk about 5 minutes, almost like an icebreaker, I suppose, just tell you a little bit about myself. I could do that. I am an accredited speaker, as Tom said, a qualified speaker. I have given a TEDx talk. I've been a professional presenter. I've given over 9,000 public CPR presentations, which might sound impressive, but you know, there's somebody else who gave almost 9,000 public presentations to much larger, more raunchous, what's the word I'm looking for? Vivacious audience than myself. Do you know who that would be? I think his total count was around 8,800 public presentations. I will say a person of infamy. I think Rose might know who I'm talking about. Who is that, Rose, who gave over 8,800 presentations?
I'm going to let you have the honor. Say it to everyone.
Oh, I don't know if it's an honor, but it was Adolf Hitler. So I am proud of my CPR heritage. I've been doing now for 34 years. I started when I was 2. I was a child prodigy, started teaching CPR at the age of 2. I also am a runner, and one of the things I enjoy about running is not only doing races. I happen to have ran more 100-mile races than anyone in the world. I've completed 219 100-mile races. I also have won more than anyone else in the world. I've won 67, but what's most enjoyable about running for me is sharing it with others. And I had the distinct honor of someone also in our listening audience. I was able to coach this individual to their very first marathon finish. And who would that be?
Karen Lucas.
Yes, Karen crossed the finish line at the LA Marathon in 2017. It was my great honor to coach her. I remember she was traveling around, and at one point she was, I don't remember what state it was in, but it was some state that was pretty much frozen over. She had to go get her mileage done at the treadmill in the gym, but she was right on top of her mileage requirement as her coach, and very proud of her. And her success was obvious when she crossed the finish line. But I want to encourage you to do what I've done, taken a hobby and pursued it. Running has been a hobby for me. I wish I could say I've learned a way to monetize it, but I have. I've learned a way to monetize it by putting lots and lots of money into my hobby, but I haven't learned a way to reverse that process and bring money back to me from my little hobby. Today is Groundhog Day. And I love the movie Groundhog Day. How many of you have seen the movie Groundhog Day? Bill Murray, Andy McDowell. And the thing about Groundhog Day is it takes an individual who's very narcissistic, Phil Connors, the weatherman, and he goes to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to welcome the Punxsutawney Phil's what's it called? Prediction, but there's another word for it. Start with the P.
Prognostication.
Prognostication. Thank you for that, Michael. Got my tongue all tied up there. It's a great thing about Toastmasters. We help each other out. But he was giving his say it again.
Prognostication.
Prognostication. I don't know why I'm getting so hung up on that word. Prognostication. Anyway, he was giving his prediction for would spring come early on February 2nd, or would it be another 6 weeks until March 21? And it was Phil Connor's job to go and give a little human interest story. But he was a very narcissistic individual, only thought of himself, and he got stuck in a loop of repeating the same day over and over and over again. And that, of course, was Groundhog Day. If you know how the story ends, he actually transformed himself into an amazing individual who, by the end of that long day, exhausting day, he had saved at least two individuals. One kid that fell out of a tree, and another individual was the mayor who was choking on his dinner. But he also won over his love interest because he showed interest in others. And I would encourage you, if you haven't watched that movie recently, go back and watch that movie, because one of the things that he demonstrates is how important it is to take a real, true, heartfelt interest in other individuals. You want to deal with discussions that aren't going in the right direction, like as a couple. Well, if you have a true interest in the other person, it makes it much easier, I think. You're on the same playing field. And so my encouragement to you is follow your hobbies, whatever your hobbies might be. As Connie pointed out in a meeting I was in on Friday night, that January was National Hobby Month. And pursue those hobbies and continue to do those hobbies if they bring you joy over and over and over. And you never know where they might lead. My hobby of speaking led to becoming an accredited speaker. My hobby of running races led to setting world records and helping others. And my hobby of collecting books has actually taken me to a path where I'm starting a second business in used book sales. It's very small, just getting started, but it's a hobby that I've been pursuing. So that is what I would like to leave you with. The message is, whatever hobby you've maybe put aside, that dream or goal you've maybe had that maybe you can't think of it in the larger scale, just think of it maybe as just a small hobby, and go and pursue it. Just maybe a little bit today, and then a little bit tomorrow, and a little bit the next day. And before you know it, as Malcolm Gladwell spoke about in Outliers, maybe you'll have 10,000 hours in, and you'll be able to carve up ice into an angel and speak French fluently, and be able to throw cards into a hat and play the piano like Phil Connors in Groundhog Day. Back to you, Mr.
Thank you, Ed. Very impressive. But I'm sure that that most of you were struck by Ed, thinking that he must be a bright, intelligent guy, and that he forgot to tell you that he also has won the most races in Death Valley. at 100 miles. And so, you know, he may not be as smart as he looks. I'm not sure, but that's pretty amazing. The tenacity that it would take to be able to win that. What's the name of it again, Ed?
It's called Badwater 135, and I would love to be able to take credit for winning that race, but unfortunately, I have never won that race. I have ran it 10 times in a row, but the closest I've come is 13th place.
Okay, but you ran it more times than anybody, is that?
No, there's a few people who've even ran it a few more times than I have, actually.
Okay. Well, you live to tell about it. That's the important part.
Tom, I have one quick story about him, and I believe it's true. Is he once did a race and a speech contest on the same day. Is that correct?
I actually did, and I will never forget it because it was my 46th 100-mile win, and I lost the speech contest because my time was 7 minutes, 30 seconds, and 46/100ths of a second forward.
Wow.
Okay, it's just like everything
Okay.
else. Timing is everything, right?
Okay.
All right. Now I may need the advice of Bob and Roxanne on this because I'm going to call on my wife without having warned her to give her introduction of herself. So I may need to bring in a consultant to help me resolve our difficulties after that. Connie, you're on for up to 5 minutes.
Bob, Roxanne, I don't remember Tom telling me he was going to call upon me this evening. Shame on you, Tom. My hobby. It was mentioned that last month was National Hobby Month. My hobby, I guess, is writing. I've written and published a book, very proud of that because it is not an easy feat. It's a little book called Dating and Mating, Wit and Wisdom on Love and Marriage. I was surprised that that was my first book published because actually I thought it would be a children's picture book. I've always enjoyed reading to students. I'm a retired elementary and special education teacher. However, since I'm not the illustrator, that presents a big problem. It's a children's picture book. So what I have currently are a lot of books that are kind of on the back burner. And I think they'll be a lot of fun, but I have to work on this whole thing. Do I try to go traditional publishing or self-publishing? And it's quite an involved and tricky business to be in. Speaking of tricky, I'm going to read from my book and talk about writing and publishing, which I think is an area of interest for lots of people. Up at our local library, we have a Fit After 50 exercise group. I've been doing that for quite a while, and I asked the librarian, do you ever look for people to share from their books to give a little presentation? And she was quite excited to have that happen. So this Saturday afternoon, I'll be presenting there. Now, here's the challenge. We are under a mandate to be masked at all inside venues. So when I go to exercise now, everybody has to be wearing a mask, which is not as much fun as exercising without. I'm prepared either way. They may say, well, you're at least 6 feet away from your audience, so maybe it's okay if nobody has any concerns about that I would be not wearing a mask. But I may be, for the first time, giving a presentation, reading and sharing about writing and publishing with a mask. So my challenge is going to be to really project to my audience. I will enjoy it no matter what. It's fun to look out and see, whether it's on Zoom or see in real life, in person, to see the smiles and the nods and so forth as I share. And that's what I really enjoy. So I don't know, it may be a first for me for my hobby of writing. Tom?
Thank you, Connie, and I'll be apologizing later for calling on you without warning you. But she's not one to really brag about herself, so she leaves that up to me. She's talking about 40 years in one club, consistent, uninterrupted membership of a club, multiple DTMs, past area governor, past division governor, and has put on a lot of really very special events at the district. So that's her real strength and field of expertise. Not only is getting along with me, but putting on special events for our district.